I would hope so. Item 10, hearing panel recommendations on submissions on the statement of proposal for remediation work on the upper Makara scheme, and I'll hand that over to Mr. Adey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this has been through quite a significant public consultation process, and what you have before you today is the hearing panel's recommendations on it. As with the previous paper, you basically have two choices, either to accept and if you don't accept or don't adopt it, then the process must go back through to rehear those submissions, etc. So it's no change from the previous paper.
Just some clarity on that. This whole council would have to rehear it, is that right?
Yeah. That's my understanding. Yeah. Yes. Well, or unless you elect another hearings panel and then consider their report, but you would basically have the same options before you if anybody
So the first option would be this whole council will then have to go back and be part of the hearing?
No, not necessarily, unless if you elected an alternative hearings panel, but when that report came back to council, you would have the same options before you yet again. Yeah. Now, assuming that assuming that the council does adopt the hearing panel's recommendations, then clearly we need to move with the detailed design. And under 14 there, I've sort of outlined a rough idea of the process that we would go through in terms of the completion of design and tendering. And in the recommendations, now, if we are substantially under in our estimate for this project, that will create some issues that need to be dealt with, and therefore I'm proposing in that recommendation that we restrict the delegation that the Tenders Committee has under 3. And in 4, that is really the legal process of making sure that when we do subject to agreement of the hearings panel's recommendations, then the adjustments to rating will be legally able to be done through the annual plan process. So I'll leave it at that and seek questions.
Of accuracy, on page 26 of the panel decision report, item 8.2, Mr. Thomas has pointed out to me that it says Mr. Thomas is a member of the Makara Ratepayers Group, submitted on the management of the scheme, which in his view was not well managed, and he did not think the stop bank ought to be well represented.
Not missing from there, the typo, Mr. Chairman.
So he asked me to point that out.
Explain that.
There is a typo in 8.2. As second line, it should read, he did not think. I don't know where the not suddenly dipped out.
Okay, sorry, okay.
It was in the draft.
Okay. Yeah, there are a couple of other typos that I've mentioned. If I may just point them out while we're on those, and that goes, if you take page 41, in the second dot point, the line should read, depreciation reserve will be built up over time in accordance with the revised valuation and life expectancy. However, for reasons of intergenerational equity, etc. Yeah.
Interpretation, I don't know where that came from.
No, I don't know either. Yeah.
There's also, unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, there's a few commas missing from it too that seem to have dropped off from the draft to the. I apologise for that.
Yeah.
Other questions,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just on the reasons for the decisions, 41, the phrase consequently wear and tear has become a problem, etc. Wear and tear, is that just another way of saying inadequate materials were used? How does water flowing through a culvert cause wear and tear?
Well, it's not necessarily the water, it's the sediment that comes with it that, and obviously creates, 1, abrasion of the pipe, and 2, over time rust, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm obviously missed something. I just want to go to on page 25, 6.10, on the agenda item. And I'm seeing there that the recommendation of the statement of proposal essentially was that option 1B is the preferred option. Was that a direct decision of council? I seem to have been missing something here, that option 2 was where the council was, and then where do we end up with 1B as the recommended option?
That was put to you as per in the statement of proposal, which we
So we signed off
adopted.
and the proposal was there, was it?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
must have missed that. It just seems contrary to where the council had got to, but I must have missed it. The other question was on page 40, the contribution from the Regional Disaster Reserve, 722,418. That's been a bit of a movable feast over the iterations. Can you just tell me? I think we were at 300 and something, and now we're at 722. Can you just tell me how we got there?
The statement of proposal included an option which had, from memory, about $580,000 coming from the Regional Disaster Reserve.
There was an earlier figure. There was an earlier figure of a lower figure than that from memory. I may be wrong on that, but
Well, you may not be wrong, but I can't remember what it was, to be honest. But I thought it was generally around the sort of $500,000 mark. But yeah, I mean, certainly there has been some adjustment in it over time. Yes.
So the upward adjustment from the 500 odd
Yep.
to the 722, how did that happen?
Can I do a bit of an explanation on the whiteboard, and I'll show you the two options? Maybe that's make it clear that. So I'm on the statement of proposal, and this is the hearings panel, and we have option 1B on both of them, and the figure here is 1.2 million, there or thereabouts. This statement of proposal, the scheme reserves currently hold about, I mean, these are rough figures, 250,000. That was deducted down to 950k, and the regional disaster reserve took 60% of that, which ended up at 570 if my maths are right. Over here, we've still got the 1.2, but we're saying the regional disaster, or the hearings panel is recommending the regional disaster reserve pick up 40% of that figure. Okay, so 40% of that figure is the 720 odd K, and the scheme then, 60% of that, and the scheme picks up 40%, of which so that leaves whatever it is, 580, 680, 580, 580, I think it is. Is it? No. Yeah, 480. No, 580, 480. Yeah, that's right. Of which the reserves already have 260,000 in them. So that's the. So the scheme picks up 480,000. Sorry, my numbers are not too clear. 260,000 already in scheme reserves, leaving 220 still to fund.
So the position today is that the ratepayer, through its contribution from the reserve, is funding about 50%, close to 50% of the cost of the project. Is that right?
60%.
60%.
Yes. Yeah. So that was the statement of proposal. This is what the hearings panel.
Plus the 300 we've already spent.
That's included in that 1.2.
Councillor Gilberts.
Yeah, page 26 of the hearing panel decision, Mr Lawson, on behalf of the submitters, submitted that it should be paid for by the general ratepayers occasioned by a failure to identify and undertake remedial work, negligently to identify the replacement of the pipe in a timely manner. Further evidence says that the pipe had a lifespan of 30 years and that was known. So from 1980 to 2010. So the question is, on what basis did the panel find that if it was going to fall, if it had a design life of 30 years, and then the hearing panel then says that there's no suggestion that there was anything wrong with council's performance because that's the finding, and yet the evidence is that the pipe was going to fail within 30 years, and there was no, despite some evidence, there was no evidence that the council did anything about it. To me, it's a bit like you wait till the house burns down and then call the fire brigade. That's the analogy.
Well, that's the hearings panel has heard all the evidence and considered it and made that decision, so it's probably not appropriate for me to directly answer it, but...
Can the chairman of the hearings panel comment on this, Mr Chairman, or is it not constitutional?
I'll say this, Mr Chairman, the hearings panel heard no evidence at the time that the dam was built that the life of the culvert was 30 years. No evidence.
Mr Chairman, when the dam was built, the life of the culvert was presumed to be 80 years at least, and that's why they put steel in instead of concrete, because the technology at the time said that would last for 80 years. So at some stage during the after the dam was built, it was realised that the thing would only last 30 years, and that was the evidence.
Mr Chairman, I'm actually going to raise a point of order here, and that is around, again...
No need.
Around accuracy of information. Everything in this report
we either
details
accept
the
it or not.
information that was heard, and no other information is relevant to the hearing.
Accepted.
It has to be the information.
We're not here to relitigate, we're here to accept it or not. Please, Councillor McGregor.
How, through you, Mr Chairman, Mr Riley, how weather dependent will the construction be, and what will be the consequences of a major storm in the middle?
The construction obviously is weather dependent. Part of the design or the requirement will be that there will be a diversion of the stream made. Clearly that needs to be designed to a possible storm that could occur during that period, and that decision will be made by the designers. But yeah, it's a risk-based decision, and there is always the possibility of a larger storm occurring during the construction period than the design period. But I mean, it is being designed by experts in the field, so they will have a pretty good feel as to what is appropriate in terms of that risk.
This winter, Mr Chairman, but this winter, Mr Adey, there will still be protection there, won't there, because the wall of the dam will be in place. We've got the spillway, which has been constructed as a result of the failure, but there is still some protection there from the existing dam wall.
Yes, there is.
About 30%, isn't it?
Yeah, the dam can take some ponding. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's probably a metre between the bottom of the temporary spillway and the floor of the dam, so there is some ponding volume available, and once that starts spilling, yeah, that adds to the flow. But the capacity of the stream downstream of the dam, it is unlikely to jump out of its banks in a small event, but other than on Pyro Station itself.